Dating as a neurodivergent adult, practical communication tips. Have you ever been on a date that felt like you were suddenly dropped into a conversation with no script, no clear rules, and no idea what the other person actually wants from you? Even though you genuinely like them and want it to go well? If that resonates, this video was made for you. Hi, I'm Jacqueline from ASD Life Coaches, where we help autistic and neurodivergent adults build real-world skills, independence, and confidence through cognitive life skills coaching. This includes some of the most human and vulnerable areas like dating and relationships. Today, we're going to break down dating communication in a way that actually makes sense for your brain. First, we'll look at why dating communication feels so uniquely difficult for neurodivergent adults. Second, we'll talk through two real-world scenarios that you might recognize from your own life. And third, I'm going to give you 3 practical, concrete communication tools you can use right away, including actual scripts that you can adapt for your needs. Let's get into it. Dating is hard for almost everyone, but for autistic and neurodivergent adults, there are some very specific reasons why it can feel exponentially harder, and none of those reasons are about being unlovable or socially incompetent. They are about how your brain processes social information. Here's what's actually going on. First, dating is built on implicit rules. Most neurotypical social interaction runs on what researchers call an implicit social contract, or a set of unspoken expectations about how conversations should flow, how interest is signaled, how much to share, and when and what certain phrases actually mean. Phrases like, "we should hang out sometime," or "I'll text you," don't always mean what they literally say. For autistic brains that are wired to process language more literally and logically, this creates real confusion. It's not a deficit, it's a mismatch. Then, dating involves high sensory and cognitive load all at the same time. Think about what's happening on a first date. You're in a new environment, possibly noisy, unfamiliar, with unpredictable sensory input. You're trying to hold a conversation, monitor the other person's facial expressions, decide what to say next, regulate your own emotions, and mask or manage how you're coming across, all simultaneously. That is an enormous amount of cognitive processing happening all at once. It's exhausting in a way that can be very hard to explain to someone who doesn't experience it. Third, emotional processing differences affect your timing. So many autistic adults experience something called delayed emotional processing, meaning you might not fully understand how you feel about an interaction until hours or even days after it happens. In dating, where responses are often expected quickly and in the moment, this can create misunderstandings. So you may come across as disinterested when you're actually just still processing. Or you might feel overwhelmed and go quiet when you're actually very interested. Understanding these dynamics, implicit rules, cognitive load, and delayed processing is the foundation for everything we're going to talk about today. Because once you understand why something is hard, you can build tools around it instead of blaming yourself for struggling. So let me give you some real-life examples. The text exchange. Alex has been on 2 dates with someone he genuinely likes. After the second date, he sends a text that says, "I had a good time. Let me know when you want to do something again." His date responds, "Yeah, for sure," and puts a smiley emoji. Alex reads that as a confirmed plan and waits. A week passes, no follow-up. He assumes she's lost interest and stops reaching out. She assumes he lost interest because he never followed up with an action plan. Neither of them said anything unclear from their own perspectives. But the communication broke down because one person was operating on implicit expectations. That, yeah, for sure, was an invitation for Alex to suggest a specific time. And Alex took it at face value as a mutual agreement to reconnect. Let me give you another scenario. The first date conversation. Maya is on a first date. She's genuinely excited. This person shares her interests in a very specific, she rarely gets to talk about. When the topic comes up, she goes deep. She shares information, context, history, connections between ideas. She's energized and engaged. Her date seems to get quieter. Later, a friend who knows Maya well tells her that the date mentioned she seemed intense. Maya had no idea. She wasn't being intense. She was being herself. And she had no in-the-moment signal that the conversational balance had shifted because she was focused on the content of what she was saying, not on tracking her date's shifting body language or other signals. Both of these scenarios are incredibly common and both have workable solutions. Here are 3 tools you can start using right now. The explicit invitation close. So what is it? A concrete, specific way to end a conversation or a date that removes ambiguity. It eliminates the guessing game of implicit follow-up and gives both people a clear next step. It actually works well for neurotypical people as well. Most people appreciate clarity. They've just been socialized to not ask for it directly. So how do we do it? Instead of leaving the date open-ended, you close it with something specific. Here's a script you can adapt for your needs. I had a really good time tonight. I'd like to do this again. Would it be okay if I texted you later this week to pick a day? That one sentence does 3 things. It states your interests clearly, it proposes a specific action, and it asks for permission, which also invites them to confirm or redirect. There is no ambiguity left for either person to misinterpret. So when is this appropriate to use? At the end of any date or conversation where you want to see the person again. Simple as that. Okay, another tool, the 50-50 conversational check-in. This is a self-monitoring strategy for managing conversational balance, especially when you're passionate about a topic. It works because it gives you an objective internal benchmark to work from, instead of trying to read subtle social cues in real time, which is genuinely difficult when you're also engaged in the content of a conversation. So this is how you do it. Before a date, set a simple internal intention. For every topic that comes up, you share and then you ask. It doesn't have to be mechanical. It can be as natural as, I could talk about this forever. What about you? Is this something you've thought about today? Or simply, what's your take on that? The goal isn't to perform balance. It's to build in a natural pause that creates space for the other person and also gives you information, because their response tells you whether they're engaged, curious, or ready to move on. Use this anytime you notice you've been speaking for more than a few minutes uninterrupted, or when you're in a topic you feel strongly about. Another tool is the post-date processing note, a brief private reflection you do after a date to process your own emotions and observations before you respond or make decisions. It works because it accounts for delayed emotional processing. Instead of forcing yourself to evaluate how you feel about someone in real time, which may not be accurate for your brain, you give yourself a structured window to actually figure it out. So this is how you do it. Within 24 hours of a date, write down or do a voice memo. Do 3 things. 1, what felt good or comfortable about the interaction? 2, what felt off or confusing? And do I have a hypothesis about why? 3, do I want to see this person again and why? This isn't about overanalyzing. It's about giving your brain the processing time it actually needs so that your decisions and your follow-up communication reflects how you genuinely feel. not just whatever emotion happened to be the loudest in the moment. Use this after any date, especially early ones where you're still figuring out whether there's a genuine connection. Dating as a neurodivergent adult is not about learning to pretend to be someone else. It's about finding strategies that let the real you communicate more clearly so that the right people can actually get to know you. You are not too much. You are not broken. You just deserve tools that work with your brain, not against it. And those tools absolutely exist. If this kind of practical, neurodivergent-centered coaching resonates with you, like and subscribe below. Thank you so much. We release new skills-based content regularly, specifically for autistic and neurodivergent adults. If you're ready to work on this more personally, visit us at asdlifecoaches.com to learn more about one-on-one coaching and how it can support you. You deserve relationships that work for who you are. We're here to help you build them.